Every single night, 50 million Americans wake up to use the bathroom, not once, but 2, 3, sometimes 5 times. I know because I was one of them for 11 years, and I know because I watched my closest friends disappear into nursing homes. Not from cancer, not from heart attacks, but from exhaustion, from years of broken sleep that wore them down until they could not live alone anymore. I am 105 years old. I live by myself. I slept through the night last night, and here is what nobody told any of us at our doctor's appointments. Not mine, not my closest friends, not the appointments that cost us time and money and hope for over a decade. In 80% of cases, your bladder is completely healthy. It is not the problem. It never was. The pills, the supplements, the herbal teas, the prostate formulas, the bladder support capsules, every single one of them aimed at the wrong organ entirely. I tried them all at 78, at 83, at 86. I spent money I did not need to spend on bottles that did nothing but the people who sold them comfortable. Here is the thing about being 105. You stop being polite about the truth. The system makes money when you stay sick, exhausted, and dependent. It does not make a single dollar when you figure out what is actually happening in your own body and fix it yourself with nothing but 15 minutes on your sofa and the willingness to change what you eat for dinner. If every person over 60 understood this one mechanism, understood what their legs are doing to their kidneys while they sleep, the pharmaceutical market would lose billions of dollars overnight. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you something that took me 97 years to figure out. Something no physician ever sat down and explained to me. Something I had to piece together from watching my friends disappear, one by one, into facilities they never came back from. From failing with every supplement and every YouTube video and every well-meaning piece of advice anyone ever handed me. I am going to tell you what actually works, why it works, and something far more important than any physical remedy I have ever tried. Before I go any further, I want to ask you for one simple thing right now. Leave a comment below and tell me how many times you wake up at night to use the bathroom. Just a number, that is all. I read every single comment, and knowing that number tells me exactly who I am speaking to today. And if you are not already subscribed, please do that right now before we go any further. Because what I am about to share took me 97 years and 11 years of failed treatments to understand, and you deserve to have it. It started when I was 78. That was when the nights changed. I had always been a deep sleeper. My husband used to say that a marching band could come through our bedroom, and I would not flutter an eyelid. Sleep was never something I worried about. It was just something that happened, like breathing, like the sun coming up. Then, one night, I woke up at 2:00 in the morning with that pressure low in my abdomen, that insistent, impossible to negotiate signal. And I shuffled to the bathroom and came back to bed and lay there staring at the ceiling. I told myself it was nothing. One time, every person my age woke up occasionally, except it was not one time. Within 6 months, it was twice a night. By the time I was 80, it was 3 times. By 83, I was barely sleeping at all. I would fall asleep at 9:00, wake at midnight, wake again at 2:30, wake again at 5:00, drag myself out of bed at 7:00, feeling like I had been awake for 3 days straight. I was exhausted in a way that went into my bones. I was irritable, which was not like me. I was forgetting things, small things, where I put my reading glasses, whether I had watered the tomatoes. My daughter started calling with that particular careful tone in her voice, the one that means she is deciding something about you without telling you yet. I went to my doctor. He checked my bladder. He checked my kidneys. He adjusted my blood pressure medication. He gave me a pamphlet about overactive bladder syndrome and a prescription for a medication that made my mouth so dry I felt like I had swallowed chalk. I took it for 3 weeks and stopped. The nighttime trips continued without interruption. I went to a urologist. He was a pleasant man, very thorough, and at the end of my appointment, he said the words I had already heard a dozen times in various forms. At your age, this is quite common. We can manage it, not fix it, manage it. I drove home from that appointment, and I sat in my car in the driveway for a long time. I was 84 years old, and I was being told that the rest of my life would be managed. That I would spend my nights shuffling to and from a bathroom, sleeping in pieces, losing my edge, losing my memory, losing the sharp, particular pleasure of waking up genuinely rested and ready for the day that this was now just what my life was. I decided that was not acceptable, but it took me a long time to find the right door. My closest friend was 86 when her nighttime trips started. She had been a school teacher for 40 years, a formidable, precise woman who diagrammed sentences for fun and never once raised her voice at a child in her classroom. She was not a complainer. She was not dramatic. But when she told me over coffee one morning that she had been up 4 times the previous night, I could see something behind her eyes that frightened me. Not the tiredness, though that was there. Something smaller, something retreating. She tried everything. She restricted her fluids after 5, 0 in the evening, which I later learned was exactly the wrong instinct. She bought cranberry supplements in bulk. She wore a special device her daughter ordered from the internet. She saw 2 different urologists, 1 cardiologist, and eventually a specialist at a university hospital, 2 hours from her home. They found mild issues, adjusted her medications, gave her exercises, and sent her home. She moved into an assisted living facility at 89. Not because she had a catastrophic health event. Not because she fell or had a stroke, or was diagnosed with something terrible. She moved in because she was so exhausted from not sleeping that she did not feel safe living alone anymore. The nights had ground her down over 3 years until the woman who once managed a classroom of 34-8-year-olds did not trust herself to manage her own household. I visited her there every week until she passed at 92. She was comfortable, she was cared for. But the last time I held her hand, she looked at me and said, "I still do not understand why my body stopped cooperating." It broke my heart because by then I had finally found the answer, and it was not what either of us had expected. Let me tell you what actually causes most nighttime bathroom trips in people our age, because I spent 2 years reading everything I could find, asking every question, cross-referencing what researchers were finding with what I was observing in my own body. And when I finally understood the mechanism, I wanted to reach my friend and say, "It was your legs, it was your heart, it was gravity and fluid retention and the physics of lying down. It was never your bladder. Here is the simple version. All day long you are vertical. Gravity pulls fluid downward into your legs, into the soft tissue of your calves and ankles. When we are young, the veins in our legs are strong and elastic with little valves that hold blood in place and push it back up toward the heart. When we are older, those valves weaken. That vein elasticity is gone. Fluid seeps out into the tissue and sits there quietly like water, absorbed into a sponge. You might not even notice it. Your socks leave a groove when you take them off. Your ankles look slightly puffy by evening. You assume that is just age. Then you lie down to sleep. The moment you become horizontal, gravity reverses its relationship to that fluid. All that accumulated fluid retention in your leg tissue begins moving back into your bloodstream. Within an hour, your circulating blood volume rises significantly, as though someone injected an extra liter of fluid directly into your system. Your heart feels this, it registers the excess. It releases a hormone, the one researchers call atrial natriuretic peptide, that signals your kidneys to dump the overflow immediately. Your kidneys respond, your bladder fills, and you wake up at 2:00 in the morning convinced that your bladder is the problem, when in reality your bladder is simply the last stop on a journey that started in your ankles 12 hours earlier. This is the condition known as nocturnal polyuria, and it is behind the vast majority of nighttime bathroom trips in adults over 60. This is why restricting water after 6:00 does not help. The fluid is already in your body. It is stored in your legs, not in your stomach. You could go to bed completely parched and still wake up 3 times because the fluid in your tissue has nowhere to go but through your kidneys while you sleep. This is also why the prostate supplements did not help my friend. Her veins were the issue. Her circulation was the issue. Her evening meals were the issue because hidden sodium retention from processed food, cheese, cured meats, and condiments traps water in your tissues during the day and then releases it all at night when you lie down. Her evening glass of wine was the issue because alcohol suppresses the hormone that tells your kidneys to slow down at night, disrupting your sleep architecture, so your kidneys run at full capacity while you sleep and your bladder fills faster than it should. Nobody told either of us any of this, not in 11 years of appointments. Here is what I do now, and I want to share these 4 steps in the order that made the biggest difference to me, starting with the one most people overlook entirely. The 4th step, and the one I do last before sleep every single night, is pelvic floor exercises done quietly in bed in the dark. Before I close my eyes, I do 20 quiet repetitions, not tightening my whole body, not squeezing everything together the way most people do it incorrectly. Just lifting the interior muscle, the one you would use to stop the flow of urine, holding for 3 seconds, releasing over and over. This calms the nervous system connection between your pelvic floor and your brain, quiets the hair, trigger urgency that develops with age, and tells your bladder it can wait. When the pelvic floor is trained consistently, the signaling between your bladder wall and your brain becomes steadier and less reactive, especially at night when the urgency that wakes you tends to arrive with a force that feels non-negotiable but often is not. The 3rd step is removing the hidden sources of sodium retention from my evenings entirely. I removed the salt shaker from my table years ago. I do not eat cheese or cured meat at dinner. After 4:00 in the afternoon, I drink only small sips of water, enough to keep my mouth from going dry, but no large volumes. Every gram of excess sodium you consume in the second half of the day increases the volume of fluid sitting in your leg tissue by the evening. That fluid is what redistributes into your bloodstream when you lie down. Reducing that sodium load in the hours before bed directly reduces the volume of fluid your kidneys will need to process overnight. It is a straightforward chain of cause and effect that no supplement can short-circuit, but a simple dietary change can. The 2nd step is 30 heel drops every single morning. I stand with my feet shoulder width apart, rise up onto my toes, and let my heels drop back to the floor with a firm but gentle impact. 30 repetitions, 30 seconds. This activates what physiologists call the calf muscle venous pump, the mechanism your leg veins depend on to push blood back up toward the heart against gravity throughout the day. When that pump is working efficiently, from the moment you stand up, less fluid escapes into the surrounding tissue as the day goes on, which means less fluid accumulation in your legs by evening. which means less fluid available to redistribute into your kidneys when you become horizontal. The lymphatic drainage benefits compound over weeks of consistent morning practice in ways that are genuinely measurable. The first step, and the one I believe is the anchor of the entire protocol, is leg elevation for 15 to 20 minutes every single evening, about 90 minutes before I go to bed. Every single evening, without exception, I lie down on my sofa and put my feet up on the armrest, just that. Legs elevated, heels higher than my heart. I read during this time. Sometimes I listen to the radio. What I am doing physiologically is giving gravity permission to drain my legs before I sleep, rather than after I fall asleep. All that fluid that has accumulated through the day begins moving back into my bloodstream while I am awake and in control. My kidneys respond to the atrial natriuretic peptide signal. My bladder fills. I go to the bathroom before bed, and I release the volume that would otherwise have woken me at 2:00 in the morning. That is the core of the entire protocol. Drain the legs before you sleep, so the process happens on your schedule, not your body's. It took me less than a week to notice a difference, and less than a month to go from 3 nighttime trips to 1. Within 3 months, I was sleeping through the night almost every night. I was 89 years old when I figured this out. But here is the part that matters more. The protocol fixed my body. It did not fix my life. What fixed my life was understanding something that took me 90 years to learn, and that I now believe with every fiber of my being. Illness is 70% in your mind and 30% in your body. I do not mean that sickness is imaginary. I have buried too many people to romanticize suffering. I mean that the state of your inner world, the emotional environment you live inside day after day, determines how your physical body responds to everything. To stress, to sleep, to food, to age, to the small daily insults that bodies accumulate over a long life. I have watched people deteriorate not from disease but from loneliness, from feeling useless, from losing their sense of purpose after retirement or after their last child moved away. I have watched men who were physically robust begin to fail within 2 years of leaving a job that gave them identity. I have watched women who were healthy and sharp begin to fall over when they stopped being needed, when their families stopped calling except out of obligation, when their days became empty of everything but appointments and television. The body follows the soul. That is not poetry. That is what I have observed over a century of living. The people I know who have aged with their minds and bodies largely intact share something that has nothing to do with diet or exercise, though those matter too. They share a quality of inner life. They are honest with themselves about what they feel and what they need. They are patient with their own limitations and with the limitations of others. They are sincere, not performing wellness, not pretending to be fine, but genuinely invested in being present in their own lives. And without exception, every single one of them is doing something for someone else. That last part is not incidental. It is the whole thing. What I want to add here, because the research now supports it in ways I find important to say plainly, is that the connection between purpose and the physical conditions we have been discussing runs deeper than most people realize. Scientists who study aging have documented that chronic loneliness and the absence of meaningful daily purpose elevate cortisol levels in a pattern almost identical to the chronic stress response. Chronically elevated cortisol degrades vein elasticity over time, directly worsening the venous insufficiency that drives nocturnal polyuria. It also disrupts circadian rhythm in ways that interfere with the natural overnight slowdown of kidney function that healthy sleep architecture depends on. In a body under sustained purposelessness, the kidneys never fully receive the hormonal signal to rest at night. The same emotional conditions that hollow out your sense of self are also, at the biological level, preventing your body from making the nighttime shift that would let you sleep through. Purpose and physical repair are not separate tracks. They run on the same hormonal highway, and tending one genuinely tends the other. When I was 3 years after my husband died, I went through a period that I am not afraid to describe as a kind of slow dissolving. I was healthy enough. I was doing my exercises, eating carefully, managing my sleep, but I was hollow in a way I could not explain to my doctor, and did not quite know how to explain to myself. I would wake up in the morning and lie in bed asking myself why I needed to get up. Not in a dramatic way, just in the flat, practical way of someone doing a cost-benefit analysis and finding the benefit column disturbingly empty. My granddaughter called me one evening in November. She was studying for her nursing licensing exam, and she was in a panic about pharmacology, about the drug classifications she could not hold in her memory no matter how many times she reviewed them. She asked if I could quiz her, just read the question and tell her if she got it right. I did. For 2 hours we went back and forth, her reciting mechanisms of action and contraindications, while I checked her answers against her study guide. By the end she was laughing, exhausted and confident. She said, "You should have been a teacher." I already knew that, but hearing it from her at that moment did something to me that I cannot fully describe even now. I got up the next morning without asking myself why. That is not a small thing. That is everything. I started tutoring neighborhood children in reading the following spring, just 2 afternoons a week at the kitchen table. Then a woman at my church asked if I would call her mother in a care facility once a week because her mother was lonely and the woman lived 3 states away. I did. Then another person asked and another. I now make 4 phone calls a week to people in facilities who do not have enough company. I bring food to 2 neighbors who cannot drive. I write letters, actual paper letters, to 11 people across 6 states who have told me my letters are the thing they look forward to most in their month. My body did not dramatically improve from any of this. I did not develop new cartilage or grow a younger heart, but something happened that I believe is directly connected to why I am still here, still functional, still waking up each morning with a reason to swing my legs over the side of the bed. Meaning is medicine. Purpose is a nutrient. Being needed is more powerful than any supplement I have ever been handed in a plastic bottle. And right here, if this conversation has reached something in you, please share this video with one person in your life who is losing sleep and has been told there is nothing to be done about it. Just send it, no explanation needed, and if you have not yet subscribed, please do that now because there is more of this kind of conversation coming and I want you to have it. I want to say something to you directly, whether you are 60 or 80 or somewhere in between. Whether you are the person struggling with nighttime trips or the child of that person or the neighbor or the friend, the body you are living in is not failing you. It is signaling you. Every disrupted night, every creaking joint, every morning that feels harder than it used to, is your body asking for attention, asking for adjustment, asking you to look at what is happening not just in your tissues, but in your thoughts and in the quality of your daily life. Nurture your soul with sincerity. That means being honest with yourself about what you are actually feeling, not the acceptable version, not the version that does not inconvenience anyone, but the real one. Loneliness is real. Grief does not have an expiration date. Fear of becoming a burden is a weight that crushes slowly and quietly and deserves to be spoken out loud rather than carried in silence. Nurture your soul with patience. Your body did not change overnight, and it will not heal overnight. The protocol I described, the elevated legs, the heel drops, the dietary changes, the pelvic floor work. It requires consistency more than it requires effort. 20 minutes a day, done every single day without expecting immediate results, without abandoning it after a week because you still woke up once. Patience is not passivity. Patience is the decision to keep showing up for something that matters. Need help before you are in crisis. It means telling your doctor what is actually happening rather than the edited version. It means saying to the person who calls to check on you, actually, I am having a hard week. Instead of fine, everything is fine, do not worry about me. And then help someone. I am not asking you to volunteer at a hospital or organize a community event or do anything that requires coordination or planning or energy you do not have. I am asking you to make one phone call this week to someone who is lonelier than you are, write one letter, bring one meal, offer 1 hour of your attention to a grandchild or a neighbor or a stranger who needs to be heard. What happens next in your body will surprise you, not immediately and not dramatically, but over weeks and months you will notice something shifting. The mornings will feel slightly different. The weight you carry will be fractionally lighter. The reason to get up will be slightly clearer. This is not motivational language. This is biochemistry. Meaning and purpose alter the hormonal environment in which your cells live. A person who feels needed sleeps differently than a person who feels invisible. That difference accumulated over years is the difference between a body that cooperates and a body that surrenders. I am not a doctor. I am a 105-year-old woman who has been paying close attention for a very long time. I am still here because I figured out how to drain my legs before bed. I am still here because I stopped poisoning my evenings with hidden sodium and evening wine. I am still here because I do 30 heel drops every morning like it is non-negotiable, because in my body it is. But I am still here, still sharp, still interested, still glad to be alive because I never stopped being useful to someone, because I kept choosing honesty over performance, patience over frustration. Sincerity over the comfortable numb distance that age can offer if you let it. The health care system will manage your symptoms. It is very good at that. It will give you pills that address the symptom and leave the cause untouched, just as it did for me for 11 years, just as it did for my closest friend for the last decade of her life. It will offer you management, and it will call that treatment, and most of the time you will accept it, because you do not know there is another question to ask. I am asking it for you right now. What is actually causing this? Not which organ is involved, but what in the physics of your body and the chemistry of your evenings and the emotional architecture of your daily life is creating the conditions that make sleep impossible and exhaustion inevitable. The answer is almost always fixable, not with a procedure, not with a prescription, not with money, with understanding and with the willingness to change small things consistently over a long time. I am 105. I slept through the night last night. I woke up this morning, put my feet on the floor, did my 30 heel drops and went to make coffee. Then I sat down to tell you this because my closest friend deserved to know, and so do you.